Welcome all and thank you for joining today's webinar. Before we dive into today's session, I'd like to share a little about my journey because it kind of directly shapes my perspective on enhancing the learner experience. I started out just like many of the students you support today as an international student, navigating assessments, deadlines, and systems from the learner seat. That experience kind of stayed with me as I completed my master's in communication design. It gave me a deep appreciation for how impactful the right learning environment and the right tools can be. Now, that perspective kind of grew even stronger when I stepped into the education sector as a trainer and later as a training manager across to RTOs. I saw firsthand how systems, processes, and support, or the lack thereof, could either empower learners or create unnecessary friction. Now working at Wisenet, first as a product specialist and now as a product enablement designer, I have the privilege of connecting those dots, designing experiences that don't just tick compliance boxes, but actually improve the learner journey. So when we talk about enhancing the learner experience today, we're not just talking theory, we're talking about real, tangible ways to improve outcomes because I've seen what happens when we get it wrong and what's possible when we get it right. I'm just going to pause for a quick second here just to check if everybody can see my screen. All right, with that context in mind, today's session is all about translating those lived experiences, both mine and yours, into practical solutions that improve how we engage, support, and retain learners. We'll start by unpacking the current learner communication landscape, what's working, what's not, and why so many training organizations are still relying on fragmented manual systems that weren't designed with the learner in mind. Then we'll explore the real-world challenges that colleges and educators face when it comes to handling learner requests, especially pastoral care and well-being related inquiries that often fall through the cracks. From there, I'll introduce you to key tools, basically two key tools we've developed at Wisenet to directly address these gaps. First, the Learner app, which kind of redefines how learners engage with your organization securely on their terms. Second, Cases, our new learner ticketing feature that transforms one-off messages into an end-to-end request management system. We'll walk through how these features work together to create a streamlined support workflow that's trackable, accountable, and learner first. Finally, I'll show you the broader strategic value of how these tools aren't just operational fixes, but key enablers of retention, satisfaction, of course, compliance. And we'll wrap it up with the Q&A, where I'll answer your questions and hear your insights towards the end of the presentation. All right, let's start by talking about a common mindset we see across the sector, right? When we say learner engagement, most training providers still tend to equate it with a fairly narrow checklist, if the students attend the classes, access learning resources, submit their assessments on time, are they demonstrating competency, and have they completed the qualification? And to be fair, these are all important. They're measurable, they're tied to outcomes, and they align with what regulators expect you to track. But here's the catch, engagement isn't just about academic compliance or ticking boxes. It's also about how supported a learner feels throughout their entire journey, especially outside of structured learning moments. The reality is students today are navigating more complexity than ever before, balancing work, family, finances, mental health, and sometimes just the digital overwhelm. And when all that is happening behind the scenes, showing up to class or submitting an assignment doesn't tell you the whole story. So the question you need to ask yourself is, are you truly engaging in the learner's journey, Or are you just monitoring their attendance and helping them finish the course? If you step away from the academic lens for a moment and reflect on how learners typically reach out to your teams today, chances are it's a combination of emails, phone calls, SMS, face-to-face chats, and of course, messages through the LMS if you use one. The issue here isn't the variety, it's the fragmentation. These communication methods often operate in silos, which means key details get missed, your response times vary, and tracking becomes a very manual process. And for your staff, this kind of results in duplicated efforts, miscommunication, and a reactive rather than a proactive support model. For example, let's say a learner applies for a course extension. They might send a message to their trainer, who then emails the training manager. The manager then reviews the evidence and sends a decision back to the trainer, who then has to inform the learner. Multiple handoffs with no centralized tracking can lead to, again, things falling off the cracks, as I mentioned before, making it difficult to complete an audit trail. And this gets even more critical when we look at how sensitive learner issues are being managed, whether it's a well-being concern, a complaint, or a support request. When there's no central system, escalation is unclear and critical information is buried in someone's inbox. And sensitive data may often be stored in unsecured formats as notes or documents. Not only does this create operational inefficiency, it creates a serious risk. With the current changes to standards and increased focus on pastoral care and learner well-being, providers are expected to implement structured, transparent, and learner-first support processes. With all that in mind, the fragmented communication, the manual processes, the compliance risk, we have to ask a hard question: is this good enough for your learners? Learners today expect timely, clear, and personalized communication. They expect transparency and they expect support when it matters. In fact, learner experience is the new brand currency. It's what builds awareness, drives loyalty, and ultimately influences outcomes across the entire learner journey, from enrollment to completion and beyond. So, how do leading organizations, both in and outside of the education sector, build loyalty, reduce churn, and create exceptional experiences? They start by doing one thing: putting the customer at the center of everything. And as education providers, you need to do the same. That means treating your learners not just as students fulfilling academic qualifications or academic requirements, but as customers making a choice, an investment in their future with your organization. So, why does this shift in mindset and investment in learner experience actually matter? Because the impact is broad. And if you look at it, every stakeholder is affected. For your learners, expectations have evolved. They want timely, digital-first support. They expect fast responses, self-service access, and clarity. For your frontline staff, the current processes may be unsustainable. They may be buried in emails, chasing verbal updates, and manually logging issues across disconnected systems. It's reactive and inefficient. And for your leadership team, the lack of visibility is a strategic blind spot. If you don't know how many learner issues are open, which ones are critical, or how long they've been unresolved, you can't manage risk, improve service delivery, or make data-driven decisions. And for auditors, obviously, the expectations are rising. With regulatory bodies tightening requirements, especially, again, around the learner well-being, providers must now demonstrate auditable processes. Verbal follow-ups and paper trails are no longer acceptable. And for the business as a whole, scalability is the tipping point. What works for 50 students simply won't hold for 500. Without integrated and transparent systems, growth only amplifies the chaos and the compliance risk. So when we talk about transforming the learner experience and addressing all the changes we've just walked through, Yes, there are a number of features and integrations available within the Wisenet ecosystem that can help, from workflow automation to email templates and filtered lists. The toolkit is extensive. However, today, as I said at the beginning of the session, I'm going to focus on just two key tools because they sit at the heart of addressing the most urgent gaps. First, the updated Learner app, your learner's digital first gateway to real-time engagement. So we introduced a new and improved version of the Learner app last year to provide a more modern, mobile responsive, and self-service experience. It allows your learners to access their documents, their enrollment information, classes, as well as messages. We introduced a social login option, allowing the learners to easily log in using their Google accounts. Today, we're very excited to introduce cases for them to interact with your support services in a structured way. If you're still using the old Learner app, kindly transition to the new Learner app before the 31st of July. If you're not sure of how to set this up, please feel free to log a ticket, and obviously the relevant articles will be shared with you along with the recording tomorrow. All right, going back to the cases. So cases is a learner-facing ticketing system built right into Wisenet. This allows learners to submit a support case from within the Learner app. It's flexible enough to handle all types of queries, from course extensions, complaints, leave requests, to pastoral or wellbeing concerns. Staff can track, escalate, and resolve cases from within Wisenet LRM. Cases is built not only for structure and visibility, but also with intelligence in mind. With AI capability, your team can train the system using your organization's specific learner case types, whether they are academic queries or, again, sensitive data. They can also use Assist AI to suggest clear, context-appropriate responses with just one click, helping your staff save time while maintaining a high level of professionalism and consistency. So how do these tools, specifically the Learner app and cases, bridge the gap between the expectation and reality? Cases isn't just a generic help desk tool. It's purpose-built for training providers like you. You can set up teams by department, define escalation workflows, categorize case types, and store sensitive notes securely. No extra logins, no disconnected systems. Cases and Learner app are embedded into your existing workflows for maximum efficiency. So let's see how to get started. I'm going to go through the setup of both the features, the Learner app as well as cases. So we'll start with Learner app. So first, enable the Learner app if you haven't already. Enable it via your Wisenet settings. Customize the branding to align with your organization and control the visibility of sections like documents and timetables. The access and authentication are managed securely, and of course the learn resources are readily available for you to guide you step by step. A link to these resources will be shared with you, as I said, with the recording, but feel free to log a ticket at any point in time so we can help you out with this process. You can also have the ability to request a custom domain at a cost if interested. Again, add it in the ticket if you're interested with this. You can edit and customize the Learner app email templates used to send learners the initial invitation to access the Learner app. From the same settings tab, email templates, just filter to show the Learner app template. The learners can choose to log in using their Google accounts if applicable. It is recommended that you set up a dummy learner login account to test the app before inviting your learners. Now, there are different ways to manage the access. You can manage the Learner app access either from the learner's account and the Learner app page, where you can toggle on and off and set an expiry date, or in bulk via the course offer enrollments or learner course enrollments page. These pages have advanced filters allowing you to filter the appropriate learners by course start date or even just by the course to send the invitations in bulk. You can also automate the learner invitation process using learn cycles, ensuring every learner gains access to the learner app at exactly the right point in the journey, whether it's maybe pre-orientation or at course commencement. This again removes the need for manual onboarding processes. It reduces human error and, of course, ensures consistency at scale so your team can focus on engagement and not just administration. Here's an example of what the learner app will look like. It's clean, mobile optimized dashboard for learners to, of course, view enrollments, upcoming classes, their courses, any outstanding invoices generated through Wisenet Finance, recent emails, and of course, now they can create and submit support cases from the main profile tab in the top right corner. The support page also will have the history of all their cases and they can reply from within the app itself. Now, let's take a look at how to set up the cases feature. Once the feature is released, you'll see a new tab called Cases next to the Learners tab in Wisenet LRM. Cases, of course, is now in beta. So if you would like early access, log a support ticket and we'll be happy to enable it for your account to test. It'll be available to all our standard and premium edition customers at no additional cost. The AI functionality, of course, will be available only to our premium edition customers as this requires the OpenAI API integration and has to be connected via the Wisenet marketplace. It is an optional feature. The Learn resource articles, again, will be made available and shared with you very soon. Within the Cases Settings tab, you'll have the categories with the option to create case categories based on the type of cases you receive from your learners. For example, you can create categories like fee payment or course progress, leave, sensitive care, and so on. You can set the default priority, assigned to staff or team, and whether it is restricted. And cases that are categorized as restricted can only be accessed by the specific staff or team. There's also an option to subscribe to the case if you require access to the restricted case, which can be updated from within the case itself. Next, there are 5 different email templates that are available to be customized for notification purposes to notify the learner, the staff, and other subscribed team members when a case is submitted or updated. As you can see, the first tab is a general settings tab, which will just have one option for now with a dedicated support email address. If you're not ready to roll out your learner app, you can share this email with learners. When they send a message, it automatically creates a case in Wisenet. This isn't as seamless as the in-app experience. However, it provides an alternative for organizations not yet using the learner app. Now, before I go into creating a case, I'm going to talk about teams. We've introduced a new tab within the staff section to create teams. You can create any number of teams and add staff members to the teams. The staff members should have a profile in staff for you to be able to assign them to the teams. The same staff can be in multiple teams, and this is required if you want to assign cases to teams rather than an individual staff member, but you can still assign a case to both a staff as well as the team. Now, when a case is submitted either through the Learner app or an email, you'll see it on this case's main page. You'll also receive an email notification when a case is submitted. And if you receive a phone call or a face-to-face request, you can still manually create a case by clicking on the Create New Case option at the top right corner. You can choose the relevant learner, add further details if the query is related to the course or unit enrollment, pick a category, assign the right staff or team, choose whether it needs to be restricted. If it is, then you can add subscribers to this who need access to the case. The subscriber usually is someone that is not the assigned staff or part of the assigned team. Then you can choose the priority, whether low, medium, high, or critical. Add a subject, initial internal note, and any files that you would like to attach, and save. You can update the case details as required, even after creating the case. You can escalate it to another team or staff member by reassigning the case as well. You can also reply to the learner or add an internal note before sending it to another team member. You can toggle between a reply or an internal note as applicable. By default, the case status is set to open, but you have the option to set the case to solved, merge it into another case if the learner has submitted similar cases, as well as archive the case once closed. If you're using the AI option, each time you work on a case, you can click the Train AI option at the top right corner. This allows the AI to capture the nature of the issue and how it is being handled. It stores the structure and resolution approach, not any personal data or case-specific content. Over time, this kind of builds a rich memory of resolution strategies for different case types. And over time, this helps for the system to provide you with more intelligent responses from Assist AI. At the moment, when you use Assist AI, it'll give you a generic draft response like the one that I've just showed you here. Again, it's based on the scenario, but it may not follow all your internal processes. You can customize the response and add in the relevant details before sending it to the learner. You can click Train AI at any point in the process to capture the approach for future use. I'm sure this will certainly cut down on time spent drafting professional responses for your staff. Now, to activate AI capabilities within the Wisenet cases, you must connect your Wisenet account to your OpenAI API key. Again, it's an opt-in feature, as I said, and it's available for premium edition customers only. Now, this integration allows your account to securely access AI-powered features while maintaining control over data privacy and compliance. With the Assist AI, staff kind of no longer need to start from scratch like I showed you before. It kind of suggests a context-aware message that staff can quickly review and send, ensuring the learner receives a timely response without any delays. It doesn't really, send the reply automatically. The staff can review and send when they're ready. Meanwhile, the Train AI is continuously learning from historical cases to help surface relevant knowledge or guide next steps, improving decision-making over time. All right. Lastly, when you're ready to implement the cases, in the Learner app settings, toggle the Show Cases options on so the learners can log tickets from the Learner app. Alternatively, as I mentioned earlier, even though not the best approach, you can share the support email address with the learners to send a request via the email. At the end of the day, it all comes down to one thing, right? Your learner. Their experience kind of defines your brand. It impacts your retention, drives word of mouth, and increasingly forms the basis of regulatory compliance. That's why communication kind of can't be left to chance. You need to challenge and review your learner touch points and understand the why, how, and what behind every interaction. With cases, you're not just solving issues, you're positioning your organization, in the value wedge, delivering outcomes your competitors can't in ways your learners will remember. And now with the introduction of AI-powered support, you take this kind of even further, helping your staff respond faster, more accurately, and with less cognitive load. I feel this is more than just the product feature that we've built. It's kind of the foundation for a more connected and future-ready approach to learner support. When you invest in smarter support today, you're kind of future-proofing your learner experience for tomorrow. All right, I've kind of done enough talking. Your turn now, I guess. So let's open up the virtual floor for any questions. It was a short presentation, but I hope you enjoyed it. And thanks again for attending today. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. And as I said, if you haven't already activated the Learner app or want to trial the cases, reach out to our customer success team by logging a support ticket. And of course, you can also visit the Learn resources for specific how-to articles. Thank you. Thanks again for your time.